confirmed. Enemy holds the hard point.
Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed for another What Does It Take to Play episode. Now, typically with these episodes, we look at optimal hardware configurations for playing a newly released title, and that'll give you guys upgrading to play the title in question a pretty good idea of what kind of hardware you'll need. With Call of Duty World War II, we had a look at the beta over the weekend, and we decided that since it is only in the beta phase, and for those of you unaware, the beta opened on September 29th, and that will be open till October 2nd on Steam. But since it is only in that stage and it's not a retail version yet, we decided to check out how it plays on high-end hardware. That said though, I do also have some advice for those of you using lesser hardware as well, so I'll discuss that shortly. For now though, I'm almost worried to admit that I did have a bit of fun playing this over the weekend. It's been a long time since I spent much time playing a Call of Duty title, but I thought this one was okay. Like I said, I ended up having quite a bit of fun playing it. The reason I'm worried to admit that though is because of the overwhelmingly negative feedback this title's received from gamers. Steam is full of mostly negative reviews. At the time of putting this video together, there was something like 4,000 positive reviews, which was overshadowed by some 11,000 negative reviews. Assuming though that you didn't hate the game or you even plan on getting it when it's released, this is the kind of performance you can expect to find. Those hoping to game at 1440p on a high refresh rate monitor and don't want to compromise on quality, you'll need at least a GeForce GTX 1070 or Radeon RX Vega 56 graphics card, though that's probably not that surprising. Those of you who are rocking higher end GPUs, such as the ones I just mentioned, you will want a CPU supporting 8 threads. The Core i7 7700K was around 60% faster than the Core i5 7600K. Now, the quad-core Core i5 would often dip below 60 FPS, whereas the Core i7 never dropped below 100 FPS. The Ryzen CPUs though, they also did do very well, at least those with 8 threads or more, and I'll show that in a moment. For now though, we're looking at the Core i7 7700K paired with a GeForce GTX 1080 Ti at 1440p with the visual quality settings maxed out. As you might expect, this combo delivered very smooth gameplay though. It's well worth noting that utilization was often seen hovering around 70%. That means the Core i5 and other quad-core CPUs are going to have a rough time in this title, especially when paired with a high-end graphics card. Over the course of the 5-minute match, this hardware combo never dipped below 109 FPS and averaged 136 FPS, and of course, this is at 1440p using the maximum in-game quality settings. Out of interest though, I thought I might check out how the Ryzen 5 1500X handles this title under the same conditions. After another 5-minute match on the same map, the minimum recorded frame rate was 94 FPS with an average of 128 FPS. That's only 6% slower than the 7700K, which I thought was mighty impressive for AMD's $190 quad-core. For those wanting to maintain over 60 FPS at all times at 1440p, you will still require something like a GTX 1070, GTX 980 Ti or Vega 56. If you're a little less picky and you can live with around a 60 FPS average, then the GTX 1060, Radeon RX 470, 570, 480, or 580, or the Fury X GPUs will work well. For those of you gaming at 1080p, anything equal to or faster than say the RX 470 or GTX 1060 3GB will deliver over 60 FPS at all times. Although the game is very demanding, you still can get the most out of a mid-range GPU with something like the Ryzen 3 1200, though be aware any CPU offering just 4 threads will be maxed out pretty much all the time in this title, much like what we see with Battlefield 1. So if you're using a GPU with a bit more oomph, an 8-threaded CPU will be required. Finally, it's also worth noting that if you're seeing a lot of stuttering, make sure you have 16GB of system memory installed. Again, this is the same story with Battlefield 1. The game regularly consumed over 8GB of system memory and often went past 9GB. At 1440p, the game also allocated up to 9GB of VRAM when available, so it's a bit of a memory pig, be aware of that, though we were using the extra quality settings. Well, that's going to do it for this one. That's all the testing I've done so far. I won't have any time for a big benchmark video like what I did with the Destiny 2 beta. It's going to be a pretty busy week as it is, so with the game pretty poorly received at this point, I don't know how much demand there would have been for a big benchmark video anyway. That said though, once the game is officially released, I will check it out in more detail. Until then, I'm your host Steve. See you again next time, guys.
pushing for the line.